Good morning, White Sox fans. I'm Jim Margulis, and this is your White Sox wake-up call for September 19th, 2023. The White Sox on Monday evening got a chance to experience what it must be like to play against the White Sox. Mike Clevinger threw the team's first complete game of the year, which is usually an opportunity the Sox afford to another starter. The Sox expanded their lead due to a brain cramp that you normally see the White Sox defense make, but the Sox could have stopped scoring after Luis Robert Jr.'s 3-run homer in the fifth inning, and they still would have been fine. The end result was an easy, breezy 6-1 victory over the Nationals in Washington, and it was an enjoyable way to spend a September evening. The game had a little bit of everything: heroics, comedy, and a little bit of beef at the very end. Clevinger was at the center of it, throwing the White Sox first complete game since Dylan Cease's near no-hitter last September. He came within one batter of the shutout, but Dom Smith turned a 1-2 fastball into a no-doubter to right. Smith savored the homer and took his time rounding the bases. As he reached home, Clevinger made sure to point out the score, and Smith didn't take kindly to Clevinger's words. The benches cleared, but only in a cursory manner. Play quickly resumed, and Clevinger finished the job with his 109th pitch. It was a silly argument, but in a battle of two also-rans, sometimes it's nice to see a sign of caring. Clevinger needed to be as good as he was, at least until the fifth, when the White Sox started a pair of rallies. Elvis Andrus negated Gavin Sheets' leadoff single by grounding into a double play, but Tim Anderson kept the inning alive with a single, Andrew Benintendi walked, and then Yohan Adon threw an 0-1 slider to Luis Robert Jr. It wasn't a bad pitch in terms of location. StatCast showed it ended up slightly below the zone, but it was more of a cement mixer with how easy it was to track, and Robert scooped it out to left field for a 3-run shot that provided all the runs the White Sox needed. The Sox then added 3 more the following inning. 3 straight hits knocked Adon from the game, but Jose Ferrer took over and began cleaning up the mess. He got Sheets to ground into a double play, and while Andrus singled to score Andrew Vaughn to make it 5-0, Ferrer then picked off Andrus, or so he thought. Once Ferrer saw his first baseman make the throw to second, Ferrer began walking back to the dugout, treating the third out as a given. He did not expect that Andrus would stop in time to retreat back to first, the bag that Ferrer was supposed to be covering. Andrus managed to scramble all the way back to the unoccupied bag, and the Sox made Ferrer pay. Anderson singled Andrus to third, and then Benintendi singled him home. Ferrer then headed to the dugout for a second time, but that's because Davey Martinez made yet another call to the bullpen. It was the kind of mistake you'd expect the White Sox to make, but it was that kind of charmed evening. The Sox out-hit the Nationals 15-6, outwalked them 4-0, and it all wrapped up in a tidy 2 hours and 30 minutes. Now, can the Sox do it again? If so, they'll finally win their first series in September after dropping the first 5 of them, so the optimism will be guarded. The pitching matchup isn't sexy on either side: José Ureña for the White Sox and Jackson Rutledge for the Nationals. Ureña will try to build off his 6 strong innings from his last time out, with the hopes that Pedro Grifol won't ask too much from him afterward. Rutledge got knocked around for 7 runs over 3 2/3 innings in his Major League debut against the Pirates last Wednesday, so the Sox have to resist the urge to help a rookie pitcher record some MLB firsts. Speaking of which, first pitch will be at 6:05 p.m. Central on NBC Sports Chicago.
There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform that you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. One of the things I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy because Indeed does the hard work for you. They show you the candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your description immediately after you post so you can hire faster. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports, and support the show by saying that you heard it on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Down on the farm, there isn't much meat on this particular segment anymore because the Charlotte Knights will be the only affiliate active in the final week of the minor league regular season, and they'll wrap up their schedule with 6 games against Memphis. So let's shoot straight into our tour around the league, which begins with the Orioles stunning the Astros in Houston 8-7 on Cedric Mullins' 3-run homer off Ryan Presley in the top of the 9th. That's bad news for the Rays, who dropped a 2.5 back in the AL East on an off day, but they'll have reason to celebrate today as they're expected to announce a stadium stadium deal for a ballpark in St. Petersburg that will keep them in the Tampa Bay area. The Twins lost to the Reds 7-3, but their magic number still dropped to 5 because the Guardians fell to the Royals by a score of 6-4. While Cincinnati won, the Marlins lost to the Mets 2-1 on a Jeff McNeil ninth-inning homer, so the Reds pulled a half game ahead of Miami. The Diamondbacks and Cubs were both idle, so here's your NL wildcard update. The Phillies remain comfortably in position for the first spot. The Diamondbacks are in the second spot, a half game against the Cubs, who are tied with the Reds in terms of games, but are ahead in the standings because they're one game up in the loss column. The Marlins sit a half game back of both. In the American League, the Astros still hold a 1.5 game lead in the AL West despite the heartbreak, but there's movement underneath. The Red Sox scored 3 in the 8th to beat the Rangers 4-2, while the Mariners shut out Oakland 5-0, so Seattle moved back into a tie with Texas for the final wildcard spot at 82-68, and those two teams will play each other 7 times over the next 2 weekends, which should be pretty nuts. In a game that had no bearing on postseason positioning, but still meant plenty to a lot of people, Adam Wainwright picked up his 200th career win by throwing 7 shutout innings in St. Louis's 1-0 victory over Milwaukee. It hasn't been the farewell tour that Wainwright or the Cardinals envisioned. The Cardinals are 67-83, and Wainwright lowered his ERA to 7.4, but reaching a milestone with a vintage performance in front of the home crowd is the perfect way to wrap it up. Speaking of wrapping it up, that'll do it for this edition of the White Sox Wake Up Call. Visit SoxMachine.com to talk about the game, and with the minor league season winding down, we're beginning our season reviews of each of the White Sox's minor league affiliates. If you are new to the Sox Machine podcast, you can subscribe to us wherever podcasts are found. And if you like what you hear and want to support what we do, or if you just take pity on us, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/SoxMachine, where you can get an ad-free version of the site and show with bonus content for as little as $2 a month, with savings on an annual plan. The Sox Machine podcast is a production of SoxMachine.com and part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Jim Margulis. Thanks for listening.